1980. 1980.
98, 99?
1980. That'd be possible. 1980. Yeah.
I started, my first day of work was November 1st, 2010.
Since 2010. Our problems began in 2010. So between 2010 and 2012, Gateway was a very important part of my life.
1997.
1986 that I first had a meeting.
So from 1980 to 1995?
70, it would be 76.
76.
Yeah.
My time on the board was a very, very hard time for Gateway. We experienced, my first couple of years there, tons and tons of growth. Staff was increasing, community visibility was increasing. It was really, we were all quite pleased and quite proud of the growth of Gateway. And then in the same tenure, it almost all collapsed, and Gateway was on the verge of not existing anymore. And it was really hard because I was aware of the history. It meant a lot to me, and as president at the time, it was just horrifying to think that it might all end.
So, the world wasn't ready, but it had to become ready.
And then we got upset. We thought, why are we doing this? We're not doing it for that child, but we have to do it for this child. That's not right.
The difficult part is fighting for the same things that the other two daughters get automatically that he didn't get.
The public didn't think at that time it was their moral obligation, but the separate school board was the first group, and they sat there and they said that it's a moral obligation that they fund everybody equal. They couldn't separate them. So at that point, that was the toehold that Gateway had in the education system.
I got to some of the meetings that we had at the school and discovered that I wasn't alone in feeling this way, that there were a number of parents that were beginning feeling, they were questioning why we had to go to a private school. So that group of parents sort of got together and started talking about what we should do. And when we first approached them, they told us that we would have more power if we became an entity rather than just a group of parents. But that's what got us started in saying we need to form an association. And we formed a society.
I remember them talking about when they marched on legislature, and I was so amazed that these people who were so much older, they actually were really, really radicals, and they marched on legislature, and they wanted one paid teacher, and they got so much more.
I was one of the original signees on the corporation. We had a contest for the name, see? They decided that they would use the name
Gateway Association because it was supposed to be the gateway to a better future.
It was just really born out of the concern and passion of the board, volunteer board at that time, and parents. Really, really strong, committed group that worked tirelessly, really. They were amazing.
I really enjoyed Gloria, and she was very honest, sincere, straightforward. Got to get it done. Well, she was a force to be reckoned with. She was very, very good. She'd keep everybody together, and I remember her saying to me, you do your thing and I'll do mine and it'll all work out. But she was one of these, let's get at it people. And Gloria just was such a dynamo.
What really stands out in my mind with Gateway back in the 90s was the youth group that was being held up in the organization. It was run by Heather Raymond, I believe, and Paul Cole, and they were very instrumental in starting an inclusive youth group, and that was something that was very big on our radar then.
I do remember the fashion show that marching down the runway, that he was able to be in a fashion show, even though he wasn't able to walk or talk or walk himself. He was carried down and just looked like a normal little kid, so that was nice.
I believe that organizations had to change, and certainly it's wonderful they did, because they were the starters, they were the pioneers, they were planting all the seeds for growth.
So the needs changed as the kids grew, and they moved with that change. But they always kept their goal to deal with the folks as people. You know, they never lost that focus.
Gateway kept evolving, and you know, as it's evolved again. It's something very different than it was when we started it.
It's always been about grassroots, and it's never been about politics, and it's never been about we won't support you if you don't make a donation. It's never been about that. It's always been about families and just making sure that life is good.
So it was 40 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not sure.
No, for sure.
What point I had come in and what the initial intent was, but it just seemed to be, it was really evolving with the times, is what I found. They weren't stuck. The mission, the philosophy, the thinking has evolved.
Gateway has grown immensely, and offering so many services to families that I can't imagine the community without Gateway. We are an anomaly, we're unique, and we meet families where they're at, and so I just see there's been huge growth in Gateway Association, and that's due to our executive director, Cindy DeBrune.
I think there was some sense of redefining their role clarity around local supports and family support versus systemic advocacy. And so, you know, that was another shift, I think, of clarity that I think was positive for Gateway to do. So really building that family support piece, and then now looking more around employment and doing some real intentional work in employment, which is so exciting.
It's pleasing to me to know that not only the people I worked with, but the people who came after them understood that there was work to be done, and that the association was the place to get it done. I marvel. It's doing very well.
So it was just nice to have other people that were kind of trendsetters along with myself, that we wanted a normal life for our kids.
Between the members of Gateway, it didn't matter whether they had differences of opinion over some issue or not. At the end of the day, they were all working toward the good of the association and the children it served.
We were all together, and we all knew how we felt, you know. It was like a big family.
It was a group of people who you knew before you spoke anything. They understood your situation because they were living it.
I think that the very, very first group of parents who started with Gateway, the very first group, truly deserve so much thanks. You know, everybody was a pioneer. And the wonderful thing about it was that you never felt that any parent was there self-serving just for their own child. The group of parents that were there, where the bottom line was whatever we did was for all children. All children.
It's the ability to be able to reconnect with somebody we haven't seen for a while, and we're right back to we are connected, you know, and Gateway has provided that framework for relationships even.
Gateway always was like coming home, like, you know, for our kids and for my husband, for us. It was meeting with people that you had a distinct, similar focus in your life.
We were made to belong when we felt we didn't belong anywhere. We're in touch with that element that everyone needs to belong, because we were accepted when perhaps we thought no one else would. Like if people can accept us who have children with disabilities, then we can accept all other people.
Inclusion, like it includes everybody, no matter if you have a disability or if you don't have a disability. They welcome everyone. Everyone is equal. No one is higher than, no one is lower than. So everybody is equal. That's what I like.
Gateway is a place where we come, where we feel safe, where we feel welcomed, and we certainly always belong.
It's a very lonely world if you think you're the only one who has that kind of a problem. You need the strength that comes from belonging to an association.
Many families I know are reluctant to join organizations like this, but they're a lifeline. You should never raise a child with a disability without joining groups like this. You absolutely need them.
Accept your child for who they are. Don't try to change them, and let them experience life. Don't put barriers in front of them.
Your child can do anything that he sets their mind to, or his mind to, and there's endless opportunities for. Since I've been at Gateway, I found that there's endless opportunities for parents.
This is his dream. It's what he wants to do. And I think he's going to get to do it. So you asked what my expectations are for him. My expectations that he's going to actually get to achieve his dream.
I did a talk at a meeting, and I've never talked in public before. And I remember before the meeting thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, because that is totally out of my element. I remember looking around the room, and as I was telling the story, that I was seeing all other families nodding and smiling and getting it. And that made me feel connected to other people and able to help. I think I helped give a little bit of light to other people that needed it in the room that day.
Why Gateway? Because at the time, nobody gave a damn about my friend in a 4x4 room with nothing but walls. And Gateway did. They came, they talked, they listened. They listened with their heart and they listened with their head.
We live in this neighborhood, this is our belonging community, and these are the people. And so each one did sort of their own self-image portrait, and it still hangs on the side of the building. And so it becomes a part of the fabric of the community then.
We do not learn about valuing and promoting inclusion. So you have to learn those skills. You have to learn that, and you learn that through organizations like Gateway.
For sure.
And I used all the stuff I learned from Gateway. Everything. All about, inclusion means you have a party, or your son gets invited to a party that you didn't have anything to do with. And he got invited to parties. But I used to throw barbecues in the backyard right after school and pay for the hot dogs and the chocolate milk and the strawberries. So the neighborhood kids would come, and they would come mostly because parents would go shopping or whatever. I didn't care. There was kids in my backyard, and he's still friends with those kids today. Wow. Sorry. It's just, it was amazing. Like, I can't even imagine it.
Taught me a lot around inclusion and preaching it and then versus living it.
Turning to Gateway was that they weren't interested in even the name or the label of the disability.
I think it's important to be able to have a voice for people that may not be able to speak for themselves or may not be willing to, might be afraid to. So if I can be a small part of that to change that, I'm honored.
Don't be afraid to take a risk. If we hadn't risked taking our kids, going to the public school system and saying, look, we need to provide an opportunity, heavens knows whether we'd still be stuck with a private school.
I think I've seen Gateway grow from being mostly about advocacy and advocacy for individual families to changing the shape of the community. Advocacy alone doesn't do that. Sometimes you have to lead and you just have to go out there and you just have to do it. And I think that's the shift I've seen in Gateways. If we want this to happen in the community, we're going to go out there and we're going to make it happen. We're going to create something. And they lead the way too. They hire people with developmental disabilities themselves. That's leadership.
I just enjoy hearing different perspectives on the issues. Like, I may have an opinion on something, but someone else has an opinion on the same subject in a way that I've never seen before or heard before. So it gives me a whole different outlook on life that I didn't have before. So it's been incredibly positive and enlightening, and I really enjoyed it. It reinforces their name, Gateway, because opportunity is everywhere when you're with them.
It's kind of like the gateway to help. Like, you know, it's because you know when you go there, you're going to get the help you need, the support.
It's a gateway into life. It's a gateway into living among families and neighbors and friends. It's a gateway into schools with children your own age. It's a gateway into work after school is done, or college. It's a gateway into participating, being friends and neighbors with others in the community. And those are the gateways that really make up the fabric of life.
Every kind of angle was kind of covered and connected. So I think that's pretty significant, to have an organization that looks at all of the different walks of life, different areas that come together for a common goal and does to connect.
You know, it's working as a community in the community, and that's, I think, one of the things that Gateway really excels at.
As someone my kids are my whole life. That's all that matters to me. That I would trust Gateway to help lead the way is probably as much of an endorsement as I could give.
And so when you need someone to help you think out of the box and to help you have the courage to move things forward, Gateway's a place to go.
It's in confidence that I have families connect with Gateway.
I want people to know how much admiration I have for the Gateway Association families and staff. I want Gateway to know how much I've learned from them over the years. And I want the Gateway Association to know that I'm grateful for the work that they've done for our community.
I would have to say that Gateway has been the most encouraging and the most supportive of Ben and Grant, particularly for their careers. Gateway has been so supportive and so encouraging for that aspect of who Ben and Grant are. Thanks to Gateway, and thanks for all that you've done for our family. We sure appreciate it.
Gave him a rich life in school and at home and within our community, and I'll always be thankful to Gateway for that.
And I cannot say thank you enough on behalf of our family and the great work that Gateway does for all people who live with a disability.
Lorna Lalo was amazing. And Evelyn Martin, Joan Sharp, all those guys helped support, and they didn't care what the label was. They were just like true Gateway, right?
Yes.
They didn't care what the label was. They didn't care what you did. They just cared that kids got treated well.
I'll never forget all that Gateway did for me.
Cindy DeBruin is someone that deserves that sort of respect. I don't think I've ever met anybody so dedicated.
I'm fortunate to
have been with Gateway for as long as we have as a family. I guess congratulating them on for being there for families for 40 years, and all the best to them in the future, and that they will continue to support families.
And getting to listen to the stories of family members was just in the struggles they faced. We don't have half the battles, and we have. They're just different battles now. You know, they were fighting to get into a school, and we're fighting to walk across the stage at grad at convocation for a university. You know, and we're not even doing that anymore. Now we're fighting for pay and work and inclusion and the right to get married and get some supports and live in the same place.
When ordinary friends and neighbors get to see young men and young women with intellectual disabilities going to school with other children, going to college with other young people who go to college, getting jobs, working in the community, participating in all of the aspects of daily living that we all participate in. It helps to change attitudes. It really does. Organizations like the Gateway Association and family advocates have helped immeasurably to change people's attitudes and to show them what's possible.
It's still about people. It's still about the dream. It's still about community. It's still about supporting each other.
And it's still a very relevant dream, you know, about that a community that is inclusive is a beautiful thing, and it's possible.